Donald Trump stormed onto Stephen Colbert's stage with a cocky grin and a vow to crush the fake DNA witch hunt once and for all. But the moment he sat down, the smug smile was wiped clean off his face, as Colbert calmly dropped the ultimate bombshell that left the entire audience gasping in shock. Melania Trump is not Barron's biological mother. And the proof was right there in black and white, ready to blow Trump's perfect family image to pieces. The studio lights in New York were blazing hot, brighter than usual for a late-night taping. The live audience was buzzing, clapping, and whispering as the show kicked off. Stephen Colbert stood center stage with that signature smirk, holding a thick sealed envelope in his hand like it was nothing special. He looked straight into the camera and said, "Folks, we've got a very special guest tonight. He's here for some unfinished business, and trust me, it's going to be one hell of a night." The crowd cheered loud as the big doors swung open. Donald Trump walked out with his chest puffed out and that famous confident grin plastered across his face. He waved both hands like he was at a rally, soaking up the mix of applause and nervous energy. Before he even sat down, he pointed right at Colbert and jumped in. "Stephen, I'm only here because of that fake DNA witch hunt you and your friends started weeks ago. Tonight, we're ending the lies once and for all. Believe me, it's going to be beautiful." The audience laughed at first, but you could already feel the shift. Trump settled into the big chair, still gesturing with his hands like he owned the whole room. Colbert just nodded slowly, staying calm and quiet, that sealed envelope still sitting right in front of him. Trump kept rolling, cracking jokes about the failing late-night shows and how nobody watches them anymore except for people who hate winning. He was loud, he was fast, and he clearly wanted to take control from the very first second. Colbert listened without interrupting much, his face relaxed but his eyes sharp. When Trump paused for a breath, Colbert leaned forward just a little and said in a steady voice, "Some truths can't be joked away, Mr. President, no matter how loud you say it." The words landed heavy. A few people in the front row shifted in their seats. Trump didn't miss a beat, though. He laughed and fired back right away, mocking Colbert's second-rate comedy and calling the whole show desperate for ratings. Then Trump threw his head back and let out a big, loud laugh that filled the whole studio. He looked straight at Colbert, eyes flashing with challenge, and said, "Bring it on, Stephen. Show me what you've got. Let's see if your little envelope can beat the truth." The crowd erupted in a mix of cheers and gasps. Then Colbert picked up the thick sealed envelope from the desk. He didn't rush. He didn't make a big show of it. He just slid his finger under the flap, opened it slowly, and pulled out a stack of official-looking papers. The crowd went quiet, watching every move. Colbert held the DNA report up high so the cameras could catch it clearly under the bright lights. The room was dead still. He looked straight at the audience and then at Trump. In a calm, steady voice, he said, "This test confirms that Melania Trump is not Barron's biological mother." For a second, nothing happened. The whole studio went completely silent. Then the gasps started. They rippled through the audience like a wave. People covered their mouths. Some leaned back in shock. Others whispered fast to the person next to them. Cameras zoomed in tight on faces frozen in disbelief. Trump was still smiling from his last joke, but the smile froze on his face. His eyes flashed with real shock. For a split second before he tried to hide it. He sat up straighter in the chair, his hands gripping the arms a little too tight. Colbert didn't raise his voice at all. He just read the key line from the report again, clear and flat. Paternity and maternity analysis shows zero genetic match between Melania Trump and Barron Trump. The audience was still processing, murmurs growing louder. Trump let out a loud, forced laugh that sounded too big for the moment. He shook his head and pointed at Colbert. "Maybe test yourself next, Stephen. You might find out you're adopted, too. Wouldn't that be something?" A few nervous chuckles broke out, but most people stayed quiet. The joke landed heavy and awkward, like it was trying too hard. Colbert didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. He stared straight at Trump, eyes locked on his, and said in that same calm tone, "This isn't a punchline, sir." The words hung in the air. The murmurs from the audience got louder and more uncomfortable. People shifted in their seats, looking back and forth between the two men. Trump's laugh faded fast. The confident grin was cracking. Trump wasn't about to let that hit sit. He leaned forward fast, his face turning redder under the lights. He started firing off rapid insults like he was back on the campaign trail. "This is total fake news, folks, paid for by my enemies, the same losers who've been after me for years. Stephen here is just a desperate comedian trying to get ratings because his show is dying." He laughed loud again, pointing at Colbert. "Look at him, sitting there with his little papers like that's going to change anything. Sad." Colbert didn't move. He stayed completely stone-faced, hands resting on the desk, just watching Trump go. He let him talk longer than anyone expected. Trump kept rolling, throwing out more jokes about Colbert's failing career and how nobody trusts late-night hosts anyway. But every punchline fell flatter than the last. The laughs from the audience were scattered and nervous at first, then they started dying out. People looked around, unsure what to do. The energy in the room was shifting. Those nervous chuckles turned into awkward silence. You could hear seats creaking as folks leaned back or crossed their arms. Then Colbert spoke quietly, almost softly, cutting through the noise. "Humor doesn't rewrite DNA, Mr. President." A few people in the audience clapped right away. It wasn't loud yet, but it was real. More heads nodded. Trump noticed it immediately. His eyes narrowed and he doubled down even harder. He jabbed a finger toward Colbert and raised his voice. "You've always been jealous of real winners like me. That's what this is about. You can't stand that I win and you don't. Pathetic." The tension was thick now. Trump was breathing heavier, still trying to dominate with his energy and loud jokes. But the room wasn't with him the same way anymore. Colbert stayed calm, letting the silence stretch just enough. Then he leaned in a little and dropped the next blow, calm as ever. "This report includes a signed affidavit from the lab technician who ran the test. Under oath." Trump's big smile faltered visibly. The confident grin slipped for a second, replaced by something tighter, almost angry. His eyes flicked to the papers and back to Colbert. The audience murmured louder this time, some leaning forward again. That one extra detail hit harder than the first revelation. It wasn't just a report anymore. It had a real person's sworn statement behind it. Trump tried to laugh it off again, but it came out shorter, forced. Colbert just stared at him, steady and unmoved. Colbert leaned back slightly in his chair, but his voice stayed sharp and clear. He looked straight into the camera and said, "We're not done yet, folks. Not even close. There's someone who needs to speak tonight." The audience suddenly got very quiet, sensing something bigger was coming. Colbert nodded toward the control room. Behind them, the giant screen lit up with a live video link. A man in his late 50s appeared. He had a serious face, wearing a simple button-down shirt, and he looked like he had been waiting years to say what he was about to say. "Ladies and gentlemen," Colbert continued, "this is a former Trump Organization insider who worked directly on family matters for many years. Go ahead, sir. Tell us what you saw." The witness didn't waste time. He looked into the camera and spoke clearly. "Back in 2006, I saw the medical documents with my own eyes. Melania was not pregnant during that timeline. The records showed it plain as day. And I was ordered by people close to the family to keep my mouth shut. They made it very clear. Forget what you saw, or there would be serious consequences." The studio exploded with reaction. Loud gasps filled the room. People grabbed each other's arms. One woman in the front row actually put both hands over her mouth. This wasn't some rumor anymore. This was an insider dropping a bomb that tied straight back to the original DNA scandal everyone had been whispering about for weeks. Trump's face changed instantly. The confident smirk disappeared. He shot halfway out of his chair, pointing aggressively at the big screen. "That man is a liar," he shouted, his voice booming through the studio. "He was fired for stealing. Total thief. Disgruntled employee. Believe me, this is all made up." It was his first real meltdown of the night. His neck was red. His hand was shaking as he pointed, and he kept yelling over and over, trying to drown the witness out. The audience stared in shock. This wasn't the cool, joking Trump from the beginning of the show anymore. Colbert stayed completely still. He waited until Trump finished shouting, then calmly pressed a button. A short video clip began playing on the screen right next to the witness. It was an old interview of Trump from years ago. In the clip, Trump was smiling wide, waving his hand and saying proudly, "Our family is perfect. No issues at all. Melania is a wonderful, wonderful mother. Barron is very lucky." The clip ended. The witness looked straight at the camera again and said, "He knew the truth the whole time. We all did. He was briefed on everything." That was the breaking point. The audience erupted. Gasps turned into loud boos and angry shouts. Some people stood up. Others clapped hard, shaking their heads in disbelief. The boos grew louder and louder, rolling across the studio like thunder. Trump spun around fast, turning his anger straight at Colbert. He jabbed his finger toward him and yelled at the top of his voice, "You're destroying a family on live TV. This is disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself." Colbert looked him dead in the eyes, his voice cold and steady, cutting through all the noise. "No, sir. The truth is." The words landed hard. The audience roared even louder, a mix of gasps, boos, and sudden applause. Trump stood there breathing heavily, still half out of his seat, his face twisted with rage. The surprised witness had just blown the story wide open, and the room had completely turned. The boos and gasps from the witness testimony were still echoing when Trump tried to fight back. He forced out a loud laugh and started another joke, waving his hands like nothing had happened. "Come on, folks, this is ridiculous. This guy's just another paid actor." He never finished the sentence. The audience had had enough. Loud applause and cheers suddenly exploded across the studio, completely drowning out Trump's voice. People started shouting from their seats, "Answer the question," and "Tell the truth." The cheers rolled louder and louder, turning into a wall of sound that pushed back against him. Trump's joke died instantly. His mouth stayed open for a second, but no one could hear him anymore. The tide had turned hard, and the room was now firmly against him. Colbert waited for the noise to settle just a little, then pointed to the giant screen behind them. "Let's look at the facts," he said calmly. The screen lit up with time-stamped hospital records, clear dates, and official stamps glowing under the studio lights. Colbert narrated quietly but firmly. These records show major inconsistencies in the public pregnancy timeline that was given to the press. The dates simply don't match what was told to the American people. The audience leaned forward, eyes glued to the screen. Murmurs turned into shocked whispers. The new evidence hit like another punch. It wasn't vague anymore. It was right there in black and white, dates and signatures staring everyone in the face. Trump completely lost it. He slammed his hand hard on the desk with a loud bang that made the microphones crackle. His voice shot up, angry and raw. "This is a witch hunt worse than the election. Fake records, fake witnesses, all of it. I'm going to sue this show. I'm going to sue you personally, Stephen. You'll be finished." He was breathing heavy, pointing wildly at Colbert and then at the screen. The meltdown was full-blown now. No more jokes, no more smirks. Just pure fury. Colbert didn't back down. He looked Trump straight in the eyes, and the two men went head-to-head in a rapid-fire exchange. "You told the public Melania had a normal pregnancy," Colbert said sharply. "Lies," Trump shot back. "You said Barron was born on a specific date that these records contradict. Fake news. And you claimed there were never any issues in the family. 3 different times on camera." Trump's face was bright red. He leaned forward aggressively, almost shouting, "You're making this up as you go. Nobody believes you." But the audience was done listening to him. Trump suddenly spun toward the crowd, throwing his arms wide. "You believe this clown? You really believe this guy over me?" The response was immediate and deafening. "No!" The crowd roared back at him in one massive wave. The word exploded from every corner of the studio, and loud, clear, and final. Some people stood up, pointing and shouting. The rejection was total. Colbert slowly rose from his chair, standing tall for the first time that night. He looked directly at Trump and said with ice in his voice, "The facts believe me." The studio erupted again, thunderous applause, cheers, and more shouts of yes, and "tell it," mixed with boos aimed at Trump. The energy was electric and unstoppable. Trump stood frozen for a moment, chest heaving, staring out at an audience that had completely turned on him. But Trump wasn't ready to quit. He slammed his hand on the desk one more time and tried to rally, raising his voice loud enough to cut through the noise. "This is all fake news, total hoax. Let's talk about real issues, the economy, the border, the wins we had. Nobody cares about these made-up stories." He tried to pivot hard to politics, gesturing wildly like he was at a rally, hoping the audience would follow him back to safer ground. Colbert didn't let him finish. He raised his hand and cut in sharply. "We're not done, Mr. President. The witness has one more thing to say." The big screen lit up again. The same insider appeared, looking straight into the camera. His voice was calm, but heavy. Barron's real biological mother was paid off and silenced years ago. She received a large payment and was forced to sign this. A scanned document flashed on the screen beside him, a signed NDA with clear dates, names, and a notary stamp. "Here's the signed NDA copy." Everything was covered up from the beginning. The final revelation landed like a hammer. Trump's face went pale. The color drained right out of it. For a moment he just sat there, mouth slightly open, stammering. That's not... You can't... His usual booming voice cracked for the first time all night. He tried to recover, forcing that big grin back on his face, but it looked broken. The grin didn't reach his eyes, and when he spoke again, the words came out shaky. "This is ridiculous. Completely ridiculous." The audience had seen enough. Colbert stood up and looked out at the crowd. In a clear, steady voice, he asked, "Should the truth matter more than power?" The response was instant and massive. The entire studio exploded into a thunderous standing ovation. People jumped to their feet, clapping hard, cheering and shouting, "Yes!" The applause rolled like thunder, wave after wave. Some people whistled, others pumped their fists. The sound was deafening. For nearly 30 seconds, the audience stayed on their feet, refusing to sit down. Trump sat there, surrounded by the roar, looking smaller than he had all night. He couldn't take it anymore. Trump pushed himself up from the chair, his movement stiff and angry. He stormed toward the stage door, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. But right before he reached the exit, he stopped. He turned back slowly and shot one last glare at Colbert, eyes burning with rage. Under his breath, loud enough for the nearest microphone to catch, he muttered, "You'll regret this." Then he was gone. The door slammed behind him. Colbert stood alone at the center of the stage, the applause still ringing in the air. He looked straight into the main camera, calm and serious. Tonight wasn't about revenge. It was about facts. The screen behind him showed the stunned audience still on their feet, some wiping their eyes, others shaking their heads in disbelief. The light slowly dimmed as the camera pulled back. Colbert gave one final look to the viewers at home and said, "What do you think? Did the truth finally catch up? Comment below." The lights in the studio slowly dimmed as the applause finally began to fade. The audience was still buzzing, some people shaking their heads in disbelief, others talking excitedly with the person sitting next to them. What had started as Donald Trump's revenge visit had turned into one of the most explosive nights in late-night television history. Colbert stood alone on stage for a moment longer, looking out at the crowd with that calm, steady expression he'd kept all night. He gave one last nod to the camera before the screen faded to black. So, what did you think? Did Stephen Colbert go too far by laying everything out in the open like that? Or was this exactly the kind of moment America needed, where power finally had to face the truth on live television? Was Trump's reaction proof that he had something to hide, or was he just defending his family against a witch hunt? Drop your honest thoughts in the comments below. Tell me which part shocked you the most, the DNA report, the witness testimony, the NDA, or the moment the entire audience turned on him. I read every single comment, and if you want to see more intense breakdowns, shocking revelations, and unfiltered conversations like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. We drop new videos every week, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching until the end. This one was wild, and I know a lot of you felt it too. See you in the next one.